So first, before we kind of get into what we're going to talk about today and go through a little bit of the insanity versus sanity case studies, I want to talk to you about an upcoming assignment. It's your last essay. So I just want to go over this pretty thoroughly because it has some similar concepts that you've used in past essays, but the formatting is a little bit different this time around. So, and it's also worth double the points. So we want to make sure we pay attention to the different expectations. So this final essay will be kind of comprehensive over all of the areas we've studied with personal leadership, vision, values, behavior of a leader, and all those things. So we're going to look, you're going to choose one of these leaders that we've covered. Now we're going to cover Norman Borlaug. We may try to get into the video today if we get through stuff in time. If not, that'll just be your homework, and we'll discuss him on Tuesday. And then Alice Paul, that will be the last film with Iron-Jawed Angel, because like I said in that video, we're switching it a little bit versus what the syllabus says, and then that'll be your last leader. So of course, everything should be up for you for Norman Borlaug as well as Alice Paul. So if you want to work ahead because of this deadline coming up to kind of pick a different leader, you can. But you are going to select one leader that you have not written about in any of the past essays or another class. So for the essay requirements, there are 5 questions which are on the other side we'll talk about. Each question requires you to analyze your leader's leadership based upon concepts studied this semester, the topics we covered in class, and your outside research. The first 5 questions are based on the Blue Book, which is Discovering the Leader in You, and the last question is based on our Strengths book, Clifton Strengths, which our last exam was just over. So these are the formatting instructions. So for this, you're going to, since you're selecting 4 questions, you're writing kind of 4 mini essays. So when I flip over, we'll go through that. So for the top essays, you want to put your name, essay 4, with page numbers. But you don't need to include a title page, a lot of spacing, enter. We don't want that because that's eating up in your page requirement. So really you can just have one line across, your name, essay, and that's fine. Okay? And then you can put your question at the top of the page too if you like. I'm okay with that. So start each essay response on a new page with the question you're answering retyped in bold font at the top of each page. So yeah, I guess I am cool with that. It's on here. And then responses should be typewritten, use 12-point font, double space. Each essay response should be at least 1 page in length, but no more than a page and a half. The entire essay should be at least 4 full pages. Of course, if you're answering 4 questions, it will be at least 4 pages, but no more than 6 full pages. And this does not include your references page. Course concepts, when discussed, cited, and are referred to, should be bolded throughout your essays. That's a big one. I know most of you, I think, have been doing it, but some of you still have not been doing that. So you want to make sure you are bolding these concepts throughout your essay. References, including in-class materials, films, and outside research, should be cited within the essay text and listed on the last page as references. What I may put is a little link on Canvas for APA. If you can just do some APA formatting, I think it'll be easier. I mean, if it's not perfect and there's like an italic that we're not going to take off for that, but just for grading purposes, it'll be easier to track your references if you have a little bit of formatting. So I'll make sure a Canvas link is up there for APA format on how you just would cite. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want to see the effort. And that's pretty much it for the formatting. So for your grading criteria, as I said, this is 100 points. So each of your essays will be worth 25 points each. So 5 points overall. It's for the writing quality, depth of thought, relevant use of resources, which can include course materials, films, and outside research. If used outside research is cited appropriately. So more so the citation for the outside research. If you're talking about something inside the textbook, then that doesn't have to be cited APA. That just needs to be bolded. But if it's anything from another article, YouTube, or something like that, just some kind of formatting there. Then 20 points per essay, so this is the big part. In each essay, you must appropriately use at least 3 key terms from the reading and at least 2 phrases or sentences from the course readings. Be sure to put quotation marks around key phrases and sentences. So again, the outside research is optional. You don't necessarily have to use that if you use primarily the text and things that we've looked at. If you reference the film or something like that, that's fine. But if you use a different article, that's more so where we're looking at the APA style. So for this 3 key terms, that is okay if you use a bolded term. So if you're talking about drift and you bold, because you only have a page. So if you're talking about drift and you bold drift, that can count as one of your 3 key terms. But then if you go into defining drift, that would be more of a phrase or a sentence if you use that from the book. So make sure that you pay attention to that part that we're looking for 3 key terms and at least 2 phrases or sentences. So those are separate. Okay? And then, of course, use quotation marks around key phrases and sentences, and then key terms or phrases should be in bold print. Again, make sure you're bolding these. So if we have to search for them, points are off, that sort of thing. Any questions about formatting or anything on that? Okay, let's get into the questions. So again, you're going to select 4 of the following questions to complete, and they're over each of the chapters that we will have covered by that point. You guys have taken all your quizzes, so you guys should have read all these chapters, but we will cover that last chapter during lecture next week. So question 1 topic is main view and cost of leaderships through chapter 2. Explain your leader's main view of leaderships as well as the cost of leadership that impact his or her situation. Use ideas from the text. So again, if you choose Norman Borlaug, you're going to, based on the film that we watch and any maybe outside research you watch, then you're going to write your essay based on what is his view of leadership. What do we see as some of the costs that he experienced from leadership? And you're pulling those costs and views from the text. Remember when we did those campus interviews way back when? And I'm not sure, it may not have been campus. I can't remember, COVID gets me mixed up. If you did campus, just random people on campus, or if it was in class. But I think you had random people throughout to ask that. So use those specific terms. Then question 2 topic is vision, chapter 3. How did your leader create congruency of direction? Defined on page 51. Describe both his or her personal vision and leadership. Evaluate your leader's leadership vision based on 3 criteria listed in our text on page 53. So again, if you're doing Borlaug, you're applying all these concepts where kind of like you've done in your essays, or you've done on your exams, that same idea. You're taking this leader and you're applying these concepts. Make sure you're using these pages and what is referenced on them, because obviously that's how we're grading, to know if you actually did that. I've seen students not do that. So question 3. Motivation and values, chapter 4. Identify your leader's motivation to lead. How does it relate to our reading? Also, identify what you believe to be 3 of your leader's core values. Explain. Question 4 is leadership and balance, chapter 6. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Discuss leadership and balance as it relates to your leader. Did he or she use any of the strategies described in our text? Explain. If not, what strategy do you think he or she could have used? Explain. And then question 5, which is strengths. Identify what you believe to be 3 of your leader's strengths. Give several examples for each from your research in our class presentations as compared to how the strength is defined in our text. How does your leader's story support the idea that we should focus on developing our strengths rather than our weaknesses? Any questions about any of that? Okay. So again, 25 points each essay or each question that you have within this essay, which will be to 4 or 6 pages at most. So it's due April 29th by midnight. So if you guys have any questions in the meantime, just let me know. Oh, yeah.
Is there a date to turn in our drafts for this one, or is it just the final?
Yes, I typically set them like a week before the deadline. So I'll look at that and I'll make sure I update that deadline on campus. I'll do that this week, because I'm thinking it may be, maybe next week sometime. because maybe like late next week or early, maybe give you like early that Monday, because I think that Monday is the 26th. I think so, because I think Thursday is the 29th. I think, yeah. So I think that might be what I'll do, is give you Monday so you can turn it in but still have a few days to make the edits you need. So, good question. Any other questions? Okay, well just let me know if y'all have any questions in the meantime. But that'll be your last essay and then you'll be done. So that's kind of exciting. So today we're going to talk about personal realities, demands, and expectations. I really like this chapter because I feel as though it's really applicable and it really ties in some of the elements we've talked about in the past or during the semester. But it just gives you realistic options on how to try to figure out balance and maintain it. So for today, we're going to dive into the impacts of work on personal life and then the impacts of personal life on work. And then we're also going to discuss the strategies for achieving more balance. And I think, like it talks about in the text, balance, people don't think it's obtainable. I don't necessarily think it's obtainable, but there are ways to, it's kind of like someone gave me good advice. It's like a pendulum. It's something that swings back and forth, and maybe this is where your balance lies today, and maybe this is where it lies tomorrow. But it's always going to be shifting. It's not really a destination that you get to. So the main reason why should you care about this, why should you learn this, is just to help you better manage your work of leadership, get out of drift if you're in drift, and then also help you take on more leadership and know the appropriate ways to take it on in a healthy way. So the quote for thought, kind of to lead us into discussion, is balance is not something you find, it's something you create. So again, it's not like that destination, it's something you continuously work on to try to create for yourself. Oops. So first part is talking about impact of work on personal life, and then I said vice versa. So the impact of personal life on work and work on personal life. So the chapter talks a little bit about this with the impact of work on personal life. Kind of talks about the cycle that you get into when you get into your career. And first, starting off with drive, that typically you're working to try to get either rewards, a financial goal, security, recognition, all those things that you're kind of seeking in your current role or the role you may have, and how that is driving you. And then as you're seeking that more, you're probably going to be putting a little bit more time into your work in order to obtain those goals, get that promotion, that sort of thing. So once you get that, that's the gain piece. So once you gain those financial rewards, you get that notoriety, you get that promotion, this is when you become to have a little bit more pressure on your life. And some of this may sound familiar of what we talked about with the costs of leadership at times. So you're getting those long hours where you're beginning to have longer hours because you're starting to gain more responsibility in those things that you wanted. So then you can sometimes run into the spiral of it all. So when your work becomes so demanding that you start to spiral a little bit out of control, those expectations are becoming greater and greater on you, and then it trickles into your family and personal life. And you're trying to figure out how to balance the things that you need to do for your job, but also maintain your family in those personal relationships that mean something to you. So that's just kind of the cycle that your work can start to have on your personal life, is that it starts to really creep into that time that you have set aside for things that maybe leisure you used to enjoy, but you have to figure out a different way. I know for me, I've had to kind of figure out that, but especially coming back to school and working and having long hours, how do I balance my family and still be present with my kids and, husband and doing that kind of thing, but still maintaining the expectation I have in work and school. And it's really challenging, not even to mention stuff you want to do for your personal health. So then we look at the other side of it, the impact your personal life has on your work. So this is kind of talking about your social identity. So this talks a little bit about what makes you you and how you view work and how you allow work to be integrated into your life. All these factors of identity affect that. So your core identity. These are kind of like your personality, your behavior, your traits, just kind of who you are internally that makes you unique as an individual. That's the core of who you are. So a lot of times that drives how you perceive work. Then your given identity. These are the things you're born with, whether it's your nationality, your birth order, your height, all those things that are just given to you genetically. That is your given identity. And also sometimes that's how the world perceives you based on your given identity. So that could shape how you operate in the workplace and how you choose to pursue certain careers. And then chosen identity. These are the people that you choose to build relationships with, the people you choose to have social groups in, and who you choose to join. So this is something that you have full control over as you grow and develop, that you choose what's important. So all of these things can affect on if you value work a lot, or if you value your personal life. If something is, if you grew up in having evening time at home and being present with your family is very important. That may affect a job that you would take if you knew it was going to take long night hours or a lot of evening engagements. You may say, that's not really the season I'm in, or that's not really an interest of mine because my family is very important. Or if even religion and certain things that may keep you from certain potential jobs because it doesn't align with you. So again, how that social and personal identity and various kind of avenues of that identity, how it affects how you operate in the professional world. Then changing the view of work-life balance for leadership. The text talks a little bit of the shifting generational view that we're seeing with work-life balance, and then really just kind of seeing that sometimes for men and women as they're going through life, a lot of that time that push for career is happening at the same time you're pushing to maybe get married and start a family. A lot of those things happen simultaneously. So really trying to figure out where the balance lies for that. I hear a lot of people say, oh, don't worry about, getting married. You got to chase your career. And I've heard people say, get married, why wait? You can do both. I think it's definitely a personal decision on that, but I think it's a reality that it happens at the same time, and you just have to make that choice and make the choice that makes the most sense for you. Then it talks about with the younger generations, they're not buying into those same constraints. I'm sure a lot of people aren't necessarily working jobs for 50 years and retiring, or they're not seeing life in the same way as where I work, retire, and then I'm like old and I can't really enjoy traveling and all those things like I could maybe if I retired young. So there are a lot of those dynamic shifts that are happening generationally to where how people view work in their life, and especially for the long term. And then it talks about your effectiveness as a leader depends in part on your ability to balance or integrate your career and family obligations in your community and social lives. So being able to integrate, and we talk a little bit about what integration looks like, but being able to successfully integrate that and find some sort of balance really can make you be more effective as a leader. And we've talked a lot about what makes you more effective as a leader. This is another element of that. It's just really being able to focus on how you can maintain or even achieve some sort of balance at different points of your life. Have you guys experienced any of those, just not necessarily this, but any challenges in balancing with either your work life, how your work life has affected your personal life? Let's talk about that first. Let's share.
Well, I know right now, I work at Texas Roadhouse, so I go to school and then go to work, and I think that's a lot for the college kids, but we have to work the weekends, that's just we have to do it, and that's really put a toll on me going home to see my family on the weekends, or on Easter, I can go home and get to work, so I think that's a hard balance trying to find.
For sure. That's definitely a balance. Do you feel like your family kind of understands it, though?
Yeah.
And supportive? That helps. That helps. Anybody else?
I work 2 jobs on campus and go to school full time, and my boyfriend lives in
back to 100% after surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to have like commitments here, but also there, and doing things virtually, but also like you said, just being present and making him feel like I'm there, even if I'm doing my homework or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. And he went to college for 1 semester, so he didn't really understand the college norms.
Right, for sure. That is different. I think I talked to some of my family and stuff or friends about that. Is like, especially being in a doctoral program, I don't like my husband gets it because he sees it face on, but I don't think my friend, like, first of all, they don't care about any of that kind of stuff. You know, they just think, you know, you're a nerd, Courtney. I don't really want to hear about that. But they don't really understand the expectations because they haven't experienced it. So it's hard to, you know, explain why you may be a little disengaged because of the pressures that come with being a student, because your professors are expecting you to do your work and turn it in and do all that, but your family maybe doesn't understand that pressure along with work pressure. So for sure. Anybody else want to share one? Or maybe how your personal life affects your work life? Like, as far as your personal identity, is there anything that you're just like, absolutely not, can't do that?
I think for me, I have a hard time saying no to people. So sometimes I like take on too much.
Yeah. That's a lot. That is
I like sign up for everything and oh, all of this happening at the same time.
No, pay attention to this chapter. This is like gonna help you. You don't want to do that. It will just burn you out. I've been there. I totally have been there. But you gotta. No. Mm-mm. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about this. So it talks a little bit about 6 skills and benefits that really serve to increase effectiveness as a leader in the text. And it talks about a study that they had that showed in these areas, if these areas were developed and good and fine-tuned, then they were more effective as a leader. So those interpersonal skills of working just well with people, handling multiple tasks, multitasking. A lot of y'all probably are developing a lot of these now. Leadership skills, so even just outside of maybe your job, they're saying if a lot of these things are happening in your personal life, sometimes it will help in your work life. So if you take leadership roles in the community and things like that, then you can see that trickle into a positive impact on your ability to lead in the workforce. Psychological benefits, so making sure that you are taking care of you and you are healthy and you're happy and all those things can help you in your professional life. I'm sure you've worked with people that you can tell maybe aren't very happy people, and it's kind of tough to work with them, and vice versa. And then emotional support and advice. So having those people who are supporting you and encouraging you along the way, family and friends, that can help you in your professional life. Personal interests and backgrounds. So just really taking time to dig into your personal interests. Those things, having cross-cultural experiences, that can really help grow your effectiveness in leadership. So make sure you're focusing on who you are as a person and not just the workhorse part of it, because it's very, 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 very important, because you can't be everything to everybody else if you're not doing it to yourself. Someone gave me really good advice, and because I was one of those taking on probably too much, and she was just telling me, you need to mark your calendar and have time for yourself. And if someone asks you to do something during that time, you say, I have an appointment. Even if that appointment is just for yourself to like watch TV or get your nails done or whatever. Yeah, it's all ladies in here. Or do whatever it is that you want to do, you put that on your calendar and you take control of that time for yourself. Is very, very important. And I thought, not feel guilty for saying no to someone because you're like, well, I'm just doing something for myself. I mean, I'm kind of free. No, you're not. You need to do that for your mental health. It's so important. So the chapter also gives an extensive list of costs and benefits. Some of those things we've talked about in different areas, but just talking about some of these may be kind of duplicates, sorry. But talked about balancing the costs and the benefits, or weighing out the costs and the benefits before you take on leadership roles. So it just gives a really long list of all of those things, a lot of them self-explanatory, but just thinking of those things. And like I said, a lot of this stuff I would hope that you can think about as you go into interviewing for jobs or taking jobs or looking at different promotions within your job. These are the things you want to be thinking about when you're asking questions or negotiating. Someone gave me a good tip with negotiating. Sometimes if they don't have the budget to pay you what you think you want, maybe you say, okay, well, can I maybe get, come in, maybe work remotely one day a week, or can I make sure I can get off if my kids have a game or something. Just thinking of other ways that if you can't get compensated financially, it's only off by a little bit, where can you get the compensation at that maybe are some of those costs that you would want to kind of alleviate. So just being creative with that. So then it gives you 5 strategies for achieving more balance. This is what you saw on your insanity versus sanity worksheets. And I don't know if you guys have all that out. We're going to talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to pass it out to you all just so you have it in front of you. I actually printed just enough for everybody because I thought we'd be in groups. So crazy. Okay, you have your paper. Here goes the. You have yours? Okay. Okay, you have your worksheet. Okay, you have it pulled up. Worksheet 2. And I'm not expecting you guys to fill this out now, but just so you have it for reference. There you go. Okay, so looking at the 5 strategies for achieving more balance. Integrate. Identify what you want and create a life space to accommodate it. So can you guys think of an example of integration in your life? The text talks a little bit about that. A lot of people caution the blurred lines that come with integration, that sometimes if you integrate, it's kind of like what you said, Rachel, with sometimes working at home instead of working at an office, trying to work around your family and loved ones instead of that. So trying to find ways that you can integrate or overlap. Can you guys think of any examples where maybe you could do that into your life? Try to integrate your work and your personal, whether it's like studying with friends instead of just studying alone, if your friends like to study.
I'm like an RA on campus, and we have to interact with our residents every so often, and so sometimes I just bring them to like dinner with my friends, or
Yes.
my friends get so mad, but I'm like, look, I'm killing 2 birds.
Right.
I'm socializing, and I'm getting my work.
Exactly. That's a perfect example of integration. Just finding that gray area where you can overlap. Then it talks about narrowing. Choosing what's important and eliminating the non-essential. Can you guys think of an area in your life where you probably need to narrow? Start to try to prioritize and weed out maybe what isn't as important. Just being honest. The person or the situation you're narrowing that you would be saying no to, they can't hear you now. So it's just a talk. Yes.
I was gonna say, like, specifically right now, I emailed you about the FFA thing.
Yes.
I'm coordinating for like Washington FFA.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of causing like extra stress that I don't need.
Oh,
Like,
no.
Oklahoma. coordinating something in Washington, and like I said yes because I felt bad, and so like that was something that I didn't really need to do, especially at like this point in the semester.
Yeah.
So I guess just like realizing like I'm not like while I can still help with FFA, like that's not my priority anymore. So
Right.
it's not something that I like need to do.
Right. Right, so we should have read this like a couple of weeks ago before you said yes. For sure. Being able to have that big picture and just narrowing things down. And sometimes you have to look at it from the perspective, okay, I don't want to say no, but if I say no, are they just going to go find somebody else to do it and it'll be okay? 9 times out of 10, yeah. So it's like, I'm going to have to tell you no because I have a lot that I can see the big picture on that you can't see. And as much as you'd like to help, you'll say it kind and professional, but you got to understand that a lot of people, like, it's kind of morbid, but you think about that at work, like if I'm gone tomorrow, they're going to find somebody to come teach this class. They're not going to just stop the class because Courtney's not here to teach it. No, they're going to find somebody else to do it. So have that perspective sometimes to ease some of that pressure to say no sometimes because you're the only one who can control your time and your expectations. So moderate. Set limits on time and energy you give to tasks and roles. This is a good one. What I really liked that it said was that limiting your idea of perfectionism, like you do not have to do the perfect thing every time. I think if nothing else, I've learned that in school sometimes, just doing it and doing my best. Normally it works out, but I know if it's, maybe I didn't have time to proofread the paper 3 times like I normally do, and I only got to do it 1.5 times. And I'm just going to have to turn it in and maybe get a little bit extra sleep that night. So is there any areas where you feel that you should be setting more limits on time and energy you give to tasks and roles?
I think for me, it happens like with certain classes, I like focus on the work that, or like homework or whatever, that class requires instead of like looking for other things to do in other classes. So like I try my very best to like limit how much time I spend on each class, like with homework or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair to like put my energy all into one class when like my other classes also matter.
Right.
But I'm also at the point in the semester where I'm ready to just be done.
Right.
Like I don't care anymore. Like it's gonna be fine.
Right. Right. And I think too that I have never really paid much attention to, and probably till this time around, like probably this semester, is like really paying attention to those weighted assignments. Like if it's only 10 points, that means it's only 10 points out of 1,000 points. I mean, it doesn't mean, oh, I just won't do it, but what it means if I don't do it, is that going to make or break me? Are there extra credit opportunities? Or if maybe I do it and it's not perfect and I get partial credit, is that going to make or break? So I think really paying attention to areas where you're like, okay, just like even in your job, if you know this is a draft, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the polished one has to be perfect, and you have other things, you're like, okay, I'm going to get this to where it's acceptable and it doesn't look like I didn't care about it, but also to where I can start to manage other things. So just understanding where it needs to be perfect, okay, you do that, but when it doesn't, you don't try to seek perfection in those different areas. So sequence. Setting, like you were saying, setting priorities, don't do everything at once when it's all coming together. So anything that you can see right now in your life where you're like, okay, next time around, I'm going to do a better job of not doing that. I'm going to sequence better.
So like right now, I feel like all the classes have like huge projects and huge papers to do. And like I haven't looked out this far in the semester. I always do like things like when they're due or like that week that they're due. And every spring I'm like, I want to look forward into the semester and start working on those, but I never do, and it's always all at once.
Yeah. It's tough, especially when you have, it's almost like when you're at a store, and I always joke with people because I used to work retail, it's like everybody decides to check out all at the same time and the line just gets backed up in the aisles. Like it just always happens like that. And I think in school it's kind of like that. all the instructors and professors get together and they're like, okay, it's the crunch. Every big project needs it. And it's like, I'm on both sides of it. I'm taking classes, I'm also teaching, so I get it. But it's just really having, I think a big takeaway from this class, I hope, is having a big picture view of things. So really being able to step back and say, okay, these are due, really being structured in your time on how you're going to spend, what you're going to spend doing each thing, but then prioritizing. And then when you have that other thing with moderation, that should help too, because now you're like, okay, well, I have a homework assignment, but it's not really weighted that heavily. So I'm going to know that I'm not going to put a lot of time on that, but I know I have this big assignment due that's worth 100 points in this class. So, just really using all these strategies together to help you balance. Then with the other piece of kind of what you're saying of just when everything's coming together and trying to figure it out, is having resources, or when you say kind of reflective, like, oh, I think I'm going to do better, and then you don't do better the next time. Maybe creating that support system, accountability, people that, maybe struggle with, well, I don't know, sometimes two strugglers can't help each other out unless one of them's really motivated. That can be scary, but if you both are motivated at the same time, that's good. Or if you have someone who's really good at doing that, maybe really good at sequencing or really good at saying no. It's kind of like we're thinking about with those strengths, balancing each other out. Finding ways to take the pressure off for you. So even if it's different systems, I know for me, my alert systems, like, they saved my life on Google Calendar. Like, literally, I would forget everything that's so important if I didn't have that. Like, it's almost sad how dependent I've become on that. But having systems, because I know, like, I put close friends' birthdays that I've been friends with since forever. They're on my calendar, even my parents, because it's just like you can get so caught up in what you're doing, and it's like charge your head, not your heart, on forgetting things. So having those different resources and systems in place to take the pressure off of you. So that's pretty much it for that. Let me see how much time. Just want to, talk about a little bit with insanity versus sanity. I'm not going to I appreciate you all coming, so I'm not going to wear you out today on this because everybody should have already done it. So a little bit, just tell me, maybe one person tell me a little bit about insanity. What was the insanity organization like? Just maybe one or two sentences about what insanity was like.
They were super hardcore in a sense that they wanted things done really well, and it said that there was a lot of people there that weren't sleeping and things like that. But they also seemed like they tried to integrate work and family and a little bit of work and stress relief type activities and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to add anything about insanity?
Wasn't that one also really team oriented and group work and stuff like that?
Yeah, this one was really kind of about I don't know how to describe with the right word, but maybe the non-traditional perspective of a work balance kind of setup, especially social work and all that, hanging out, partying, and all these things, but still expecting to get your job done. So that was a little bit different. What about sanity?
They were a lot more laid back as compared to the other ones.
It reminded me, I used to read a lot of dystopian society books when I was younger, and it reminded me of one of those utopian societies. Everything on its surface seems kind of perfect, everybody's happy, but if you take a deeper look, they're all just really hardworking. They said pretty much every conversation there is about work. They're all
Yeah.
really determined to get well because they're like given all these benefits with it.
Right.
I thought it was interesting.
Like the complete opposite of that. So based on that, we're not going to go through all of these questions, but what did you kind of like about each of them? Let's do sanity first. What did you like about that more structured environment? With it being more work focused?
I know, like, I put down, like, how it was, like, calm, like, it just seemed like it was a calmer environment and more, like, focused instead of the insanity where it felt to me like it was a little bit more, like, hardcore and everything going all at once, and the sanity was all just focused and calm and collected.
Mm-hmm. What did y'all like about insanity?
I like that they were like really hardcore because that's what motivates me. Because the sanity says that they take like some more time to just kind of focus on them and focus on whatever else they have going on and things like that. And I don't feel like I'd be very motivated in a workplace like that. Like I kind of need
The structure.
the fast pace.
No beer bottles everywhere.
I mean, nice. Probably not.
Right.
Like the insanity, it seems like they focused on like relationships with each other more, like at work they have more personal relationships with their coworkers, whereas like sanity more focused on like have a relationship with your family and like take care of yourself, but like we're not necessarily going to be like besties at work.
Right. Right. There are boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So which would you want to work for? Who would want to work for insanity? The one that was kind of crazy and, very socially driven and, hanging out. Okay. Why would you want to work there?
I don't know, I kind of compare it to like the summer job that I have, and it's just like, it's literally always chaos, and you just kind of have to be on your feet, and so I just kind of related to that one, I guess.
Yeah. What were some of the benefits you found from working in an environment like that? Because I've read research says that sometimes leaders who focus on those personal relationships can be a little more effective with their teams. So I think this is kind of like a higher level of being more social. What benefits have you seen from that?
I don't know, I kind of got put in charge of just kind of like corralling everyone. So like it kind of helped me like develop a bond with like the rest of the counselors and stuff throughout the summer because they'd always be like, okay, like what's next?
Yes, for sure. Okay. So the rest of you would rather work for Sanity, a more structured environment? Why?
I like grew up, we had like family dinners every night. My mom, she oftentimes like worked late, so we'd always be like upset when she like wasn't home for dinner or something. And so it's like not in a bad way, it's just like what happened.
Yeah.
But so I feel like I would want to be somebody that's like able to be home for family dinners and like go to my kids' games or have lunch with them because there's daycare there. So I just really value that part of the workplace, and I feel like that would really draw me to it.
Right. So that's kind of like some of your social identity that we talked about with this kind of, your family and your, experiences that kind of shape or personal identity of what your expectations would be in work. Okay. Very cool. So, and basically being able to apply these strategies and seeing different ways, if you were in this work environment of sanity and things were more structured, what would you need to do in order to create that space of balance? And then the same thing vice versa. If you were in the insanity, what would you need to do to create that place of balance using these 5 strategies for achieving more balance? Okay? So that was really the bulk of covering this. When we watch Iron Jawed Angels, you're going to use more of these concepts next week. We'll do that Thursday. You'll use more of these concepts to apply for that. So the last chapter that we'll cover, we're going to really apply to Norman Borlaug. You guys have any questions about insanity versus sanity or anything that we've covered so far or covered today in this chapter for achieving balance? Do you feel like it's helpful at all? I hope so. So I'm going to pass out the Norman Borlaug assignment. Like I said, just really take advantage of this class. It's really a personal development class. Of course, you have content and things that you're covering. You're welcome. But I give you. Oh, sorry. But it's supposed to help you really learn about yourself as a leader. And like I always say, hopefully help you identify red flags when you're interviewing or looking at jobs and seeing what would mesh well with who you are and your expectations and your views of leaders and all of those sorts of things. So this Norman Borlaug worksheet is going to be due next week, next Tuesday. So the first couple of pages are just some of the areas covered in the leadership profile in this chapter. So what you're going to want to do is use these to answer some of these questions when it's asking some specifics. And of course your text too. So as you go through the video, I was going to watch it today, but I think you guys can handle it. You can watch it on your own. Let you guys cut out a little bit early. But what you'll do is watch this YouTube video. It's about an hour, and it's all about Norman Borlaug. And be thinking about the things that we talked about in past chapters too, and how it applies to him. And you're going to answer these questions about leadership competencies, leadership roles, learning styles, change styles, experiences and lessons, and derailment factors. So once you've watched this film on him, it should become much more clear as to kind of how his leadership and who he was as a person falls into these different areas. So what we'll do when we come into class on Tuesday, we'll do kind of the same thing we did today, is that we'll talk about the chapter that you guys have already read, but I'll just kind of give you an overview of it, and then we'll go into detail of Norman Borlaug, and then we'll talk a little bit as you prepare to watch Iron Jawed Angels and look at Alice Paul, and then that next week we'll come back for kind of a review, and then we'll talk about exam, and we'll be like pretty much done. So it's almost over. You guys are doing a really great job, for real.
Do you know about when the tests are going to be ready? The tests?
Okay, and I just got Aaron the key on that, so probably soon, because I had to kind of.
I'm on like the last 5.
Okay.
Well, thanks. It takes a little time because I have to read like a bunch of essays essentially.
Yeah, and like I said, I just got her the key on that, so yeah.
So, sorry, I'm a little bit confused. This weekend, or like today and this weekend, we need to watch the Iron Jawed Angel and do the worksheet, right?
No, next week you'll watch Iron Jawed Angels. So next Tuesday, I'll give you the Iron Jawed Angels. It's on Canvas, so if you want to work ahead, you can do that. But next Tuesday, I'll give you the Iron Jawed Angels worksheet. Next Thursday, we will not meet in class, and you guys will watch that on your own. Because that movie's like, I don't know, 2 hours or something like that. It's a little long. So I'll give you all class period to watch that on your own. And then we'll come back the following Tuesday and talk about it. So what we'll also do is when you guys turn in your final essay, we're going to have a pretty quick turnaround on grading that, and I will get you all of your grades back, and I will let you know where you stand so you can decide if you want to take the final or not. And then I'll tell you what you would need to get on the final in order to boost your grade, another letter grade, if necessary. So, and that will have all your extra credit points. Like I said, on Canvas, it's pretty much laid out to where you should see everything that you're missing or you're not. Again, today is the last day for any missing or late work to be submitted for partial credit. After that, we'll just move on, 0. But every assignment on there, you should see where you kind of stand with your grades as of now, but I will calculate those grades for you. And I may send them as a message to you individually because our last day to meet in person will be on the day that your essays are due. So it'll be a really, really, really quick turnaround that I'll probably get back to you on that weekend. And the final exam will be virtual. So it will be on Canvas. So you'll have a couple days to complete it if you choose to take it. So any other questions? Okay. Well, I appreciate y'all coming. Let me know if y'all have any questions.